Radio, a medium that has been pruned, honed, trimmed, winnowed, chiseled, bonsai'd, and deposited here today, ready to be moistened with the watering can of evolutionary dew. This is the Dennis Miller Show.
Come to me, my baby. Let me quell your pain. Hey, folks, welcome to the Dennis Miller Show. I am the aforementioned Mr. Miller. And you know, once a week we do an entire hour where people refer to me only as I4. This, of course, is that hour. Joining us for the I4 Miller Show in our LA studio is former Chief of Staff to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, Georgie Birnbaum. George, welcome back to the I4 Miller Show.
Good to be back, I4.
I love when George plays along. What's the speech? What's the word on the street on this speech tonight, Georgie? What do we hear?
These speeches, there's two major speeches. There's the Obama speech today, and then there's Netanyahu's speech next week. Both those speeches have dramatically changed, if not been ripped, shredded, and rewritten 4 or 5 times over the past month. Just the world is changing. The rate of change is so crazy and rapid in the Middle East and North Africa. I don't think it's like it's a minefield. And in the Israeli army, the first thing they teach you when you walk into a minefield is to walk very slowly, take very careful steps.
Yeah.
And I think both Mr. Netanyahu and President Obama are realizing that bold steps are not very wise right now.
Well, it's a fluid situation, and the president has had to. I don't know why you almost have to walk back the death of walk back's the wrong word. We're pretty neurotic about the fact that we smoked a bad guy in his undies watching porn who was supposedly a holy man. I don't know why we're so neurotic about that, but how was that received over there? Obviously well in Israel, but do they feel it's, I don't know, it doesn't augur for any long-term commitment to Israel, does it?
I think they saw it as a great operation, as a standalone operation.
They dug that, right?
Loved it. I mean, it was actually Israeli-style commando raid.
Georgie, let me give you a little Delta Force. Liev, give George some Delta Force just so we can dig in this for a second. That's what it was. Choppers down, ropes out, Mossad in, Martha Keller dead, back in the chopper, bye-bye. Anyway, back to you.
Is that Lee Marvin?
Yeah, we always play that when we talk about terror because it gets me pumped.
Right. I don't think that the Israelis saw it as any major strategic achievement, but certainly a gratifying achievement for the West and for democracy.
What do you think what would the president like to see happen in between Palestine and Israel? Just tell me, boil it down into its basest terms. And what would Netanyahu like to see as far as Palestine? You're talking about these two speeches abutting each other.
Sure.
Where are they working at cross purpose?
Well, from what I hear, by the way, Obama is going to lay off most of the Israel-Palestinian issue and focus more on Syria now and try and stay away from it. But I think what Obama would want to see is an immediate recognition of 1967 borders between Israel and the Palestinians. And the Israelis would not like to see an immediate recognition of 1967 borders, because that puts a dividing line through Jerusalem. It puts Palestinian communities inside of Israel and Israeli communities inside of Palestine, and it's as if no one learned the lessons from after World War I, where you forced a bunch of people who had no want or will to live together. Mm-hmm. And we got Yugoslavia out of that. We got Iraq, Iran. All of that came from that time period, and so now to force these two people into a deal that neither side really wants is a big mistake.
Yeah. I think he's reached some dangerous tipping point, though, President Obama, in that I happen to know a few big money Jewish contributors from Manhattan, and I think he's kind of jumped the shark, as they say in sitcom land, with them, and I'm sure this might have abated, and I haven't talked to anybody since they croaked Osama bin Laden, but I also know they were disappointed in the way he was treating the motherland for a while there, and I think Daley might have come in and said, listen, we're not going to get as much money this time through unless you reach out and I guess I see that coming with a address at the American-Israeli Public Affairs Committee this weekend.
Well, it's actually quite funny. The president of AIPAC, the American-Israel Public Affairs Committee, put out an email yesterday to all of the people attending, asking them not to boo Obama when he gets on stage, which I thought was one of the silliest emails I've ever seen come from a president of an organization like that. Certainly there's probably a lot of buyer's remorse, but his one saving grace is that, if the Republicans nominate Sarah Palin, he's going to get all that Jewish money very quickly.
Now, what do you think? What is it about the Jewish people? They just think she's stupid? Because listen, when I think of how I think like Palin. So are we all viewed as stupid?
No, I'm with you on Palin, by the way. I think it's not an issue of an intellect. I think a lot of the liberal Jews, of which I am definitely not one, but a lot of the liberal Jews are just afraid of the Christian credentials. They run for the hills when they hear anyone talking about God in country.
Would liberal Jews in diaspora give up the safety of Israel to be able to decry a person like Sarah Palin at a cocktail party?
Yes.
Yeah. That's kind of sad.
Very sad
statement for people who have had to stand tall and stand against the current so many years and eons. To think that you'd get down to not wanting to be excised from the herd seems to be really a soft sellout for me. All right, so let's talk about Netanyahu. He's coming in for a visit with President Obama. I have no idea, but I believe that you, obviously the former chief of staff to Netanyahu. How do these meetings go? Like, they pose for pictures and then do they shut and do they talk like two adult guys, getting to it, or how are these things? I'm always intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, there's the pleasantries and the handshake and the photo, but after that, Israel right now is really at the precipice. I think the world is at the precipice. The Western world is at the precipice. In fact, if I were G. Gordon Liddy, I'd be peddling lead and not gold, because I'd be lining my bunker. Sure. I'd be lining my bunker with lead right now. But it's one of those things where I think as soon as the door closes, Netanyahu looks at Obama and says, "Listen, you can't push us right now. I mean, Hamas has just made a deal with Fatah, and Hamas's charter, and I paraphrase, basically says the time will come when Muslims will fight Jews until the Jews hide behind the rocks and trees, and the trees will cry, 'Hey, Muslim, there's a Jew hiding behind me. Come kill him.'" That's in their charter. And now, for Obama or for the White House or the State Department to even suggest that Israel should move forward in this peace process when now this is part of the people sitting on their side of the table is absolutely ridiculous. So I think Netanyahu on this particular trip is going to have a very frank talk with the president and just say, you have to lay off. This is untenable.
Well, three things. I would wear a yarmulke my entire visit if I was Netanyahu, just to lay down a marker, a basic subconscious marker. Secondly, I love it when apologists for the Arab world try to parse statements like, "and hopefully the rock and the tree will say there's a Jew behind me." I love it when they bring the guy in to parse that. And third, you laugh so much at two, I forgot three. But trust me, it was a honey, Georgie. It was an absolute honey. All right.
I have no doubt.
We're going to take a break. And George is going to stay with us for another segment. We'll take some phone calls at 866-509-RAND. I want to ask him about George Mitchell. He's got a website, gebinternational.com. And, we'll talk to him about gebinternational.com and George Mitchell. And we'll tighten up the Netanyahu. And we'll take phone calls right after this on the Dennis Miller Show.